Yes. So Maddie's daughter getting a foot amputated is a storyline that wasn't really a storyline. It was only vaguely referenced in the show in Sister Wives season 16, 17, 16, probably, and wasn't mentioned a lot. And I don't know whether that's Maddie just saying, hey, can you not mention it? Or whether it didn't fit Cody's narrative of being mad. But all the same, he did often refer to Janelle traveling and all of that. My thought, okay, so let me just tell you if you don't know. Maddie's daughter had to have her foot amputated. She had a birth defect that they knew about, and they decided that the best thing for her development was to amputate the foot. Janelle flew out there, spent some time with the family to help with the kids so that they could be at the hospital and stuff like that. Makes a lot of sense. It was done during COVID because it was one of those things that needed to be done at a certain time to give her the best result. That's how they felt. I'm not a doctor. I can't argue with that. But in my mind, this is a good reason to do something during COVID. They took a lot of precautions, all of that. Now, Cody didn't mention that a lot, but he would occasionally talk about Janelle traveling and Christine's traveling. And this comment was in reference to specifically the fact that Cody was not there for Isabelle. And somebody said, or for Maddie's daughter, that's your grandchild is what the whole thing said, because they were talking about the fact that Robin never advocated for Cody to be a good parent to any of his other kids. You know for a fact that if it had been one of her kids, she would have insisted he be there for support. Now, I don't disagree. If she had done that, that would have been correct. The same way that she was fully in for supporting Dayton when he had that eye surgery, which a lot of people refer to as only cosmetic. But I don't believe it was only cosmetic. I believe it was affecting his vision as well. I have no problem with Dayton having that surgery. Good for them. I'm glad that he was able to get the help he needed to have a fully functional life. The issue is that was not given to someone else. So not only did Cody not go to help with Evie, I believe is her name, but it felt like he even punished Janelle for going. He felt that she should have just stayed home. They should have figured it out. I don't know. I can't speak because my mother-in-law was sick during COVID. She lives with us and they needed to go to the Mayo Clinic, another state away. And my husband and her went. They wore masks. They were super careful. They did not catch COVID. But it was one of those things where they were really worried about her quality of health and that she might need to have some huge treatment. And so they wanted her to get in right away. Now, I have said before, and I've said this repeatedly, which is Cody could have done something to help Isabelle. His thing was he kept saying it had to be 6 weeks. And they weren't even gone for 6 weeks. I think Christine clarified recently that it was just under, it was around 3 weeks altogether. But I had presented in a previous that he could have gone, he could have quarantined for a few days, spent a few days with her and come home. Now, he couldn't have gone to the hospital. The hospital required a longer quarantine, but Hunter went. I don't think Hunter quarantined for 3 weeks. I believe by that time they could have had COVID tests, so he could have done a COVID thing. He also could have, another option is, and he didn't do this, which I felt like was the minimum, is that when they came back, he could have gone over to that house. They could have all quarantined for like a week to make sure that he hasn't been exposed. And he could have taken care of Isabelle then. As near as I can tell, he kind of shuffled over to the house and was like, hey, or how are things going? And Christine was like, fine. And that was the extent of what he did. I mean, it's kind of like, he didn't even do the minimum. I mean, there's a lot of options that he could have done. But it seems like he just sort of was like mad that she was going to do it and then did nothing to help with it. And so, yeah, but I feel like the Maddie storyline just didn't, my personal thought is that he was, him and Christine have had this kind of contentious relationship for a while. So I think he sort of looked the other way when it was Janelle. He wasn't happy with her, but he wasn't willing to do that with Christine. And he made a huge deal of Isabelle's surgery being a vacation. And it wasn't just that he didn't go. It was that he didn't go. He made all these comments to Isabelle about like, oh, are you going to be a bitter old housewife if I don't go? And it was like, and he suggested that she go alone or it was just so clear that he had a huge beef with Christine and was taking it out on Isabelle, made it so much harder for Isabelle, kind of did nothing. It sounds like maybe he like called her after she was hurt, after she was out of surgery, which is like, I guess the only thing worse would have been if he hadn't called, but geez, it was such a minimum. And all of that, but he didn't really do the same thing with Janelle. And when Janelle's mom passed away, he did go with her to a funeral. And so I kind of feel like you can go to a funeral, but you can't go to a surgery. You can't even carve out a few days for that. You know, it's kind of one of those things where you just go, I don't know. It's really clear that if he wanted to, he could have offered something, and he offered nothing.